one has seen is an endless series of provocations and violations of international law, and a militaristic approach to resolving problems, rather than what seems to be a genuine and authentic political process that Rabin engaged in actively, and that really yielded some results, and that began to form ties between Israelis and Arabs on many different levels, and began to change the environment where Israelis and Palestinians and other Arabs were actually listening to one another for the first time perhaps ever, listening to each other's stories, understanding each other's fears and suffering, and the history of each community that, as you found in the Northern Ireland peace process, is such an important aspect of the coming together of parties, of the finding of common ground among parties in conflict, to begin to respect one another's suffering, to acknowledge that suffering, to understand that humiliating one side or the other is only going to lead to extremist and radical resistance and violence, and never to a peace process. Well, I think we saw on both sides innocent civilians affected, the suffering of innocents on both sides. That's unacceptable under international law. I think that we've seen so many violations. One of the problems, I think, for many looking at this conflict through the lens of the media and through the lens of the politicians' statements, rather than seeing it from the ground up, is that Gaza was under a blockade for 18 months prior to the outbreak of violence, during which time 50% of its population was unemployed, 50% were essentially living under the poverty line. 74% of the West Bank main routes are choked by check blocks, and the settlement expansion has continued to increase. In Gaza, before the outbreak of violence, you had conditions that were considered a humanitarian catastrophe. Since that violence, the prospects for peace and for reconciliation are even further than they were before. But one thing I do know is that in previous years, a vast majority of Israelis and Palestinians and other Arabs have been committed to peace and have recognized that it would take compromise on both sides, and they're committed to a two-state solution. I think perhaps those numbers are not quite as great today as they were in years past, but I still believe that the majority of people on both sides recognize what is needed, that there must be mutual security, there must be justice, and there must be the opportunity for a peaceful, prosperous future for both sides, for any one side to live in security. By the way, I'm speaking for myself here. Course, I'm not speaking as an official of Jordan, or this is based on my experience and my perspectives from the Middle East over the past, well, over 30 years. The Arab Peace Initiative of 2002, reaffirmed by all Arab states in 2007, the Geneva Accord. There are parameters, there is a framework that exists today that has achieved an enormous consensus of support. And in fact, my understanding is that the Israeli Defense Minister just recently said that the Arab Peace Initiative could be a foundation for negotiations. And that is an initiative that requires Israel to withdraw to 1967 borders, as in UN Security Council Resolution 242, in exchange for peace and security, with all the Arab states a part of that process. I think many of us believe that that is a very important framework. It may not provide the final status exact resolution, but it certainly provides a very concrete framework for moving forward. The one thing that that is a fact is that King Hussein worked over a longer number of years and never stopped exploring every possible opportunity for achieving peace with Israel.
to the Palestinian Corner from Montreal, and this is our 36th episode devoted to Queen Noor of Jordan. The widow of King Hussein is an American born in 1951, a third generation of an Arab immigrant family. She is considered an international public advocate for cross-cultural understanding and peace-building work, especially in the Middle East. Her interviews and speeches are an outstanding example, a model to be imitated. Queen Noor was born Lisa Najib Halabi in Washington, D.C. She was born to an Arab American father, and her mother was of Swedish descent. Her father was an airline executive and later served as United States Assistant Secretary of Defense in the Truman administration, and then a director of the Federal Aviation Administration during President John Kennedy. He also served as CEO of Pan American World Airways. Noor's grandfather, Ilyas Halabi, was a Syrian immigrant who left Syria in 1891 at the time of the Ottoman Empire, included at that time Lebanon, Palestine, and Jordan, and he traded in Oriental rugs. Lisa attended schools in New York and received a BA in architecture and urban planning in 1973. After the graduation from Princeton University, she worked in urban planning before her father asked her to join him in Jordan, working in his company, Arab Air Services, which was contracted by the Jordanian government to redesign their airlines. It was during a visit of the king to her father's office that she met him the first time and got to know the king. When her father asked her to take a photo with the king, Lisa was an avid photographer and a video maker. Their friendship evolved and the couple became engaged in 1978. Halabi with King Hussein the same year. Noor and Hussein had 4 children. Behind the scene, Noor's involvement in public was criticized by the fundamentalists and the royal gossip. She founded several projects as the Queen of Jordan for 21 years during her life and marriage of her husband, the king. Her project is spilled over to the Arab world and continued to work on behalf of numerous international organizations with an international agenda. The Queen Noor has received a variety of international awards and other honors for her activism. But for the purpose of our program, her activism was as a long-time advocate for peace in the Middle East to the side of her king, Hussein, to find a just resolutions to the Arab-Israeli conflict based on the 242 UN resolutions, and to defend the Palestinian refugee questions, lifting the Israeli blockade on Gaza and removing the Israeli army checkpoints in the West Bank, to stop all Israeli settlers' activities in the West Bank and the Jordan Valley, prove that she is a champion for peace and resolving of conflicts in the area. Added to her involvement and presidency of numerous charitable organizations and associations, she is the director of Refugee International and an outspoken voice for the protection of civilians in conflict and displaced persons around the world. Her focus included advocacy for displaced Iraqis and Syrians, nor divides her time among her residences in Amman, Washington, D.C., and London, UK. She is no doubt a great, outstanding example for a woman, a model to be imitated by second and third Arab generations in the United States and Canada. Well, she is not Shakira, another example of course. الملكة نور زوجة ملك الأردن السابق حسين مثال جيد لفتيات جاليتنا العربيات من الجيل الثاني والثالث في أمريكا الشمالية، متحدثة لبقة في نصرة القضية الفلسطينية أكثر من 30 عام. هي ابنة جاليتنا العربية في أمريكا الشمالية، وفخرنا بها أن تخرج من بين بناتنا ونسائنا المغتربات من أصول عربية امرأة مثلها. ولدت ليسا نجيب الحلبي في العاصمة الأمريكية واشنطن من الجيل الثالث لأسرة مغتربة، فجدها إلياس وصل لنيويورك مهاجر عام 1891 مما كان يعرف ببلاد الشام أو سوريا، وتشمل سوريا الحالية ولبنان وفلسطين والأردن، وعمل في التجارة. نجيب الذي عمل موظف طيران حتى وصل لمدير لأحد شركات الطيران، واحتل منصب مساعد وزير الدفاع الأمريكي في حكومة الرئيس ترومان، ثم مديرا لهيئة الطيران الأمريكية بين رئاسة الرئيس جون كينيدي، ثم رجع لعمله الخاص وأسس شركة طيران متخصصة في تعمير المطارات. تلقت تعليمها في عدد من مدارس واشنطن ونيويورك وكاليفورنيا، وفي سنة 74 حصلت على البكالوريوس من جامعة برينستون في الهندسة المعمارية والتخطيط الحضري. بعد أن أنهت دراستها عملت في مشاريع تصميم وتخطيط المدن في عدة بلدان آسيوية، وطلبها والدها تعمل في شركة سنة 76 لوضع تصاميم لبناء أكاديمية الطيران العربية في عمان. أثناء وجودها في مكتب والدها مر الملك حسين يطلع على الأكاديمية، وطلب الوالد منها أن تأخذ له صورة مع الملك وهي مصورة هاوية، وفكرت يوما أن تتجه للإعلام والإخراج. أعجب الملك حسين بالصورة والمصورة، وكانت البداية. وفي خلال عام خطبها حيث كان عازب وقتها. تزوجوا لفوق 20 عاما، أنجبوا 4 أولاد. ساهمت في نشاطات أردنية وعربية مختلفة، وأسست العديد من المؤسسات الأردنية، وتولت الرئاسة الفخرية لعدد أكبر من المؤسسات دوليا ولا زالت. لكن لغرضنا وكما عرضنا مقاطع من مقابلة معها، هي متحدثة جيدة جدا لنصرة القضية الفلسطينية وحقوق الشعب الفلسطيني في إنهاء الاحتلال حسب قرار مجلس الأمن للمرأة النشيطة التي خرجت من بناتنا المغتربات من الجيل الثالث، وهي لا شك مثال يحتذى به في نشاطها وكلامها.
I come back to the Arab Peace Initiative because it was a collective offer, and all the Arab states joined together in that initiative, and to guarantee security and peace to Israel if there was a return to the 1967 borders. And obviously there might be minor adjustments here and there to the various aspects of that initiative.
نادولي على أموتها هيلا والصغر كليل، وأهلا وسهلا بالعروس يا هلا ومرحب بيها، يا هنيا لك يا عريس حقك تتباهى فيها، يا ناس قول اسم الله وربي يحمي